Garbage collector. So let us see what is garbage collector and why we are using this garbage collector. The main feature, one of the important feature provided by the CLR is garbage collector. So here when we develop any application like Windows application or web application, memory is the most important concern. Memory is the most important concern. So here garbage collector, what does it do? It clears. The purpose of this garbage collector is AMM, that is automatic memory management. So to clear the memory we have two ways, that is one thing we have to do it manually and the second thing is automatic. There are two ways. If we go for manually, it leads to the errors. So we go for automatic memory management, which will be provided by the garbage collector. So what are the benefits of using this garbage collector? The first important benefit is like the programmer, he need not worry about the memory while developing the application. There is no need to worry about the memory. And second thing is garbage collector allocates the memory on the heap memory. It allocates the memory for the objects to the heap memory very efficiently, and here it deallocates the memory from the heap for the unused objects, and it will be keeping the memory for future coming objects. It will be keeping the memory. So here in garbage collector, first of all, the garbage collector, the automatic memory management will be performed on the heap memory. So here in the heap memory you will be having the live objects and dead objects. So if at all, if you are having, if a newly created object is coming to allocate the space, if you are having the space, there is no problem. The memory allocation will be done very fast. Suppose if you are not having enough space, there is no sufficient space to occupy for the newly created object, then what we are going to do? Then the garbage collector will clear the dead objects. It will clear the dead objects and provide the memory for the newly created object. And here in garbage collector we have, the garbage collector has been, the heap memory is divided into three generations. One is generation 0, generation 1 and generation 2. So why we are dividing into these three generations? Because to search for the unused objects, it will be very easy if you divide the generations into three. So here how does the garbage collector will know this particular is dead object and live object? First it checks for the application root. If the application is root is any of the object, then it doesn't remove that object, and if at all any reference is provided for the object, even though it doesn't remove the application root objects and it doesn't remove the referenced objects, it removes only the dead objects. So by seeing this, garbage collector will decide what are the live objects and dead objects present here. And here generation 0 is the youngest generation. We can call generation 0 as the youngest generation, and all the newly created objects will be allocating the memory in the generation 0 itself. Whenever an object is created with the help of new operator, it should be allocated in the generation 0 only. If generation 0 is having sufficient memory, then there is no problem. Directly the memory will be allocated for the newly created object. If suppose if you are not having sufficient memory in generation 0, then what you are going to do? You are going to promote the generation 0 objects to the generation 1. And when we come to the generation 1, here generation 1 will contain long-lived objects, and it will act as a buffer for generation 0 and generation 2. When we come for generation 2 contains longest lived objects. So here when you don't have any like sufficient memory, the objects from the generation 1 will be promoted to the generation 2. So here these are the three types of generation: generation 0, generation 1 and generation 2. And here before removing the memory from the heap memory, you are going to have only this part of free memory. After removing the garbage collector, after removing the memory here unused objects, you can see after removing you are having lot of free memory, and these are the which are promoted to generation 1 and generation 2. You can see the objects which are promoted to generation 0 in generation 1 and generation 2. So here notice that the newly created objects must and should allocate the memory in the generation 0 only. And here in garbage collector we have 3 phases like marking phase, relocating phase and compacting phase. What does the marking phase do? Marking phase, it creates the list of live objects. It creates the list of live objects. And relocating phase, we have the second phase is relocating phase. In this phase it updates the reference objects. And the third phase is compacting phase. In this compacting phase, it clears the memory from the heap memory. It clears the unused objects from the heap memory. So this is about the garbage collection and types of garbage collection and phases present in the garbage collection.